Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Isha Moitra, Youth Employment Officer at the International Labour Organization, and it is my pleasure to welcome you today to this webinar on youth rights at work, co-organized by ILO Prospects and Youth Foresight. Youth Foresight is a global knowledge facility that is jointly managed by the Global Initiative on Decent Jobs for Youth and Generation Unlimited. I will be acting as your moderator for this discussion today. So let me begin with a few housekeeping rules. As we mentioned, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat and let us know where you're joining in from. A kind reminder that this session is being recorded, and this will be made available on the event webpage after the webinar. So as participants, your microphones will be muted during the session. And please feel free to use the chat box to ask any questions that you may have or share any comments throughout the duration of this webinar. And we'll try and pick up on those questions either by answering directly in the chat or as we move ahead with this session. So we will start as we wait for a couple of more people to join in. Let me give you a quick overview of the agenda today. So we'll be starting with a brief overview of the topic and the ILO's work on youth rights at work. And then we'll move into a dynamic panel discussion with our fantastic speakers that we have today. And so without further ado, and before we dive in straight into this topic, we'd love to hear from you, our audience, on your perception on the topic of youth rights at work. So we'll have a quick Menti poll, and you will shortly see the instructions to join the Menti poll. So you can join at menti.com or you can scan the QR code here. And tell us what you think when you think about the topic of youth rights at work. So I invite everybody to please scan the QR code and join in the Mentimeter. Okay, so we see a couple of people joining in. Great. Okay, and could we see the results as people join in and share their perspectives? Okay, so when you hear youth rights at work, what is the first word or phrase that comes to your mind? Violation, okay. Safety, trade union. Let's see what this word cloud is made up of. What are the different thoughts and perspectives? Freedom of association, equality, good pay, inclusion, and these are topics that we'll be touching upon throughout the conversation today. This is just to see where our audience is placed, how familiar they are with the topic, and what is their perspectives. Inclusion, okay, so as these words get bigger, it seems some associations with the word youth rights or the phrase youth rights at work are stronger. So inclusion is a big aspect of it, it seems, from our audience. Okay, great. Now that we've heard from our audience on what they think about youth rights at work, we would like to begin by playing a video. It's about a 3 minutes video, so slightly longer than what we'd call a short video, but we really hope that this would set a solid foundation for the conversation today by introducing you to the themes of decent work, youth rights at work and international labor standards. So can I ask for the video to be played, please?
Hi everyone, I'm Amal from Beirut, Lebanon. Welcome to the first session of the Global Youth Forum. Here, I help you understand your rights at work. Today, we will talk about decent work and labor standards. When I started my first job at a construction company, I quickly noticed something was wrong. The hours were incredibly long, there was no compensation for overtime, and eventually, they started delaying my salary. I didn't say anything at first because I was afraid and didn't know my rights or who to turn to for support. An ILO training course on workers' rights offered solutions to my problems and informed me about my rights. Our work should offer us a fair income, safe working conditions, social protection benefits, and protection from exploitation and discrimination. That's what decent work really means. It also means having a voice and being able to defend our interests and engage in dialogue with our employers. I've now decided to share my knowledge with other young people.
I am Samir, and I am a refugee from Sudan. Finding work is difficult. Securing a refugee work permit is a lengthy process, so I have no option but to take up informal jobs such as casual woodwork.
I understand. Informal jobs might seem like an immediate option, but they are risky. They often lack fair pay, job security, or even a safe working environment. You can be let go without notice, and if you get hurt or sick, you have no protection to fall back on.
I'm Paula, and because of my disability, I have often been overlooked for promotions, even though I have the necessary skills and qualifications.
I'm sorry, Paula. It is true. Not all jobs respect the principle of non-discrimination. That's why the ILO sets international labor standards to protect workers like you and me. These consist of conventions and recommendations, which establish basic principles and rights at work. They cover important topics such as non-discrimination, minimum age of employment, pay, work hours, and occupational safety. Countries that adopt conventions must ensure their laws meet the minimum protections outlined in these standards.
So what does this mean for us young workers?
It means that knowing our rights can make a real difference. It can help us support each other and speak out against unfair practices.
Exactly. Paola, ILO Convention number 111 insists that discrimination in the workplace is addressed, including on the basis of disability, and your country has ratified it.
Thank you, Amal. I feel hopeful after everything I've learned. Everyone deserves decent work.
If you're unsure about your rights, educate yourself. Seek out resources, training, or support from your local labor authorities or workers' and employers' organizations. Together, we can build a fairer workplace for all.
Thank you. I hope you found that video informative, and I think it clearly establishes the importance of youth rights at work, while also talking about how international labor standards establish a global reference point for rights at work. That being said, I would now like to briefly walk you through a portion of the ILO's work on youth rights at work. So I will be sharing my screen and making a brief presentation. Please let me know once you can see it. Okay, I see thumbs up, which means I think you're able to see my screen. So after that video, I don't think I need to emphasize further why it is important to protect youth rights at work. But I wanted to briefly touch upon, as you will see in some of these articles that come up on how young people are facing rights violations or poor working conditions. I'm sure many of us have heard that any job is better than no job at all. And I'm sure our audience here agrees that young people deserve better than the bare minimum. They deserve decent work, and they deserve to live lives with dignity and respect. They deserve to have social protection to fall back upon, and they deserve to have a voice at work. So with that, I would like to introduce you to an ILO tool, Work-Wise Youth, a guide to youth rights at work. And this guide was designed to support ILO constituents, youth-led organizations, and really any stakeholder that is interested in raising young people's awareness of their rights at work. This guide is an updated version of a previous guide. So what are these updates that were made? This particular guide has a specific focus on forcibly displaced young people. So developed under the framework of the Prospects program, that is a partnership between ILO, UNICEF, UNHCR, World Bank, and IFC, funded by the government of the Netherlands. This is a program that looks at supporting forcibly displaced persons access a decent work and dignified lives. And within the framework of this program, we updated this guide. So of course, there is a specific focus on displaced youth, but there are also more updates to this version of the guide. It looks at recent changes in the labor market, with occupational safety and health having become a fundamental principle and right at work. It has a specific emphasis on safety and health. It looks at how, with increasing opportunities in the digital economy, there are some risks as well as opportunities for young people in the labor market, and how they must recognize the risks and challenges and protect themselves in digital jobs. And it also looks at, the growing emphasis on mental health. So there are some updates to this guide. And beyond this updates, the guide really looks at a wide variety of rights at work for young people. So from social protection, fair conditions of work, safety and health, it covers a wide range of topics. And it provides access to training materials to be able to roll out training for young people to increase their awareness on their rights at work. At the moment, the guide is available in English and Spanish, but we're hoping to expand that going forward. So very quickly, the guide is divided into 3 sections. So there is a guide that has, key introductory information on all of the topics I just mentioned, including definitions. There is a toolkit that is actually a facilitator's toolkit, and it has examples of exercises that facilitators can use while rolling out training sessions. And it has an annex that has multiple components, including reference to key international labor standards, a glossary of terms, as well as other supplementary materials designed to help facilitators roll out training. So as we have quite a diverse group of people joining us today, I wanted to share this guide to also encourage you to be able to leverage its materials. So what could that mean? So we have the guide, you can get familiar with the content of the guide and use it in each of the trainings or other, informational campaigns that you may wish to roll out. So usually how it has happened within the ILO and our partners is that the global guide has been tailored to the local context. That means translating, that means making reference to local laws and regulations, as well as adding local priorities or national priorities. And beyond that, the content of the guide itself has been disseminated by integrating it in other trainings, by creating informational materials and running informational campaigns. So this is really a way to also encourage you in any trainings that you may have. Content from this guide could be very well integrated to reach young people. And I encourage you to access the guide and use the guide because it's available for you to use and disseminate among your networks. So just to give you some quick examples of how this has happened in different places, it has been incorporated in other existing trainings. So say a training in Cambodia, which was a factory workers literacy program, included a component on rights training. In Northern Macedonia, there were informational websites that were created to disseminate the content of the guide. It has been used as an app, so gamified into an app in Moldova, for example. And beyond that, there have been awareness-raising campaigns in Argentina and Indonesia, as well as global dissemination or usage of the content. So we used this guide to roll out trainings to ILO constituents in the Youth Employment Academy, but also in collaboration with OHCHR, so the Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights, to roll out a particular segment on labor rights. Another couple of examples, very, very quickly, is in Iraq and Kenya, where they were particularly tailored to forcibly displaced young people. So in Iraq, this followed an extremely consultative process, and new topics such as forced labor and child labor were added. And in Kenya, the content was used to train the Central Organization of Trade Unions on how to better engage young people within their constituency. And there have also been other usage in other countries, but I won't go into the details. You see that there has been adaptation of this guide in different geographies. A very exciting component of this guide is the campaign, Your Rights Are Your Superpowers, after which even the webinar has been named today. So we're very excited about this campaign that was co-developed and co-designed with the Global Refugee Youth Network. And this campaign really is designed to increase young people's awareness of their rights. It has quite a catchy title, as you will see. And the idea is really to showcase that once you're equipped with the knowledge of your rights at work, it is truly a superpower that you can exercise. And there are various components of it. You might see Joanna adding some information in the chat where you can access the different materials, which includes educational videos, quizzes, podcasts, and a storytelling campaign. So I encourage you as well to engage with the campaign as well as share it with your networks. So that is very quickly an overview of our topic today. And with that, I would like to ask you, while all our rights are important at work, no right is more important than the other. It would be really interesting to see what you consider to be, one of the superpowers that you would love to have at work. This is more to get a reflection of the audience, to see perhaps there's some rights that you think are more important to you than the other. But this is not to give a value judgment on some rights being more important than the other, because all rights are equally important at work. It's just to get your perspective on maybe which are the superpowers you wish you had at work. So you know the drill. Please scan the QR code and join in our Menti activity. Okay. Protection agents, so social protection seems to be a popular choice. We have one person going for a safe and healthy work environment. So let's see, as more people join in, what are some rights that you consider important? Okay, it seems a fair employment contract and social protection are high there. Maybe a couple more seconds. Okay. Fair contracts and fair employment relationships and social protection. Okay. Okay. Great. Maybe one more second. Going once. Anybody else would like to contribute to our mentee? Okay. So we see that protection, social protection, and a safe employment relationship or a fair employment relationship is very high on our audience's mind when they think of youth rights at work. Okay, I think we can take away that slide now. Great. So thank you very much for engaging in the mentee. And now with that, we will swiftly move to our panelists. We have some fantastic speakers to share their perspectives today. And we will be starting with our first speaker. So it is a pleasure to welcome you, Shanita. So Shanita Birunji, representing the National Organization of Trade Unions in Uganda. Welcome.
Thank you, Isha. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're coming from. Once again, I'm Shanita Virunji. I'm here representing the National Organization of Trade Unions, where I work as the Youth Secretary. Briefly, the question here is to tell you a brief background of how I joined the union. And being a transport driver, I come from the informal sector. As we've seen from Asia's presentation, one of the factors that pushed me to join a trade union, one, we wanted to come together because we realized that one way for our voices to be heard is to build power. And by building that power, we're supposed to come together. However much we had an association, it wasn't stronger until we joined the union, which we found out it was a big organization where we get solidarity from other members. So it was really some of the things that pushed me to join the union. Secondly, it was the working conditions. Coming from the informal sector, informal sector has a lot of issues, insecurity. We don't have the gadgets that protect us when we are working. So these are one of the things we are looking at. And the only way we can secure decent work and secure the good working conditions was joining a union, which is a good advocate to the authorities and the employers. Then we also needed legal advice. You find out most of the people working in the informal sector are ignorant about our rights. Talk about the laws that govern even where we work from. If you look at the city authorities where we work from, we don't know most of the legal rights as both the workers and the youths there. So we needed the union that is now acting as a lawyer between us and the city authorities. So these are basically things that really we needed. And then talking about the stakeholders, we could not have access to negotiate with the stakeholders. And the social dialogue we needed were the stakeholders and the other people we work with. And we needed the union still to be there. So these are basically most of the things that really pushed me to join the union. There was also harassment. We don't know where to report. Sometimes we end up bribing. Sometimes it becomes a usual norm to us that we need to be harassed, we need to be underpaid. These are normal things that were really hurting us, but we didn't have a voice where we could really lay them down and be helped. But because of this, the union came, sensitized us, sensitized the leaders, sensitized the members, and really found it was a good option for us to join the union. And that is my now route and how I joined the labor movement. On the second question on how NOTU is helping young workers understand and defend their rights. Now, NOTU is a national center in Uganda where most of the unions come together as one. And how it has really helped us, we have one program that it has come from a stage of being not only being national, but it is an international event. It is called the Youth Camp. It takes place for 5 days. And in this camp, we've come to realize what we go through as young workers, all as youth, doesn't only affect individuals like Shanita. I don't go through what I'm going through alone. So we came to realize we go through these things and they hurt our living. So the youth camp, the note was really come up with this youth camp where we come and we share experiences, we learn from each other, we talk about issues that we even didn't know that we can collaborate together. I think I want to also take this opportunity to appreciate ILO. Last year in Rwanda, we had an opportunity. We met vibrant youths from refugees, and they are these specific young workers. There is a person called Emma. He works with digital skilling. And as informal workers, we had issues in mobilizing and organizing young workers. He developed an app which we are now using to create awareness about youth rights. And this is a platform that I wasn't expecting. What does that mean? That if not had not given me that opportunity to go to Rwanda, meet these vibrant refugees that do such things, I would not have known them, because developing an app is really hard. And in the informal sector, if you look at, we don't have this time of even looking at our phones. Even hiring someone to develop an app is really hard. So for me, having got an opportunity to meet vibrant refugees and their young workers, we look up to them. They can even give us at a low cost, even on a date, and we come and pay them slowly so that we can really use these apps. So for me, that was really a good platform. And with NOTO, that is why I say these are programs that NOTO has lobbied these opportunities for us to use, and we've really benefited out of them. And we've got these also trainings where we get to learn what they are doing, and they learn from us and we also learn from them. Then the policies, some unions from the union where I come from, which is the transport union, we didn't have a youth policy. So having learned that a youth policy is a guide, it is a tool that is really there to be a benchmark for our rights. It has helped me go back to the union, implement, and I've lobbied for it, and it is now in place. If you look at the different policies like the climate change and just transition, it is also being pushed by the youth committee in our union, so that it is in other associations. Because the National Center, this is where all other unions affiliate, it has been an example for us to learn from and implement them back, our associations and organizations where we come from. Because if these policies are there, then they are guiding us to the future. Because at the end of it all, it is us, the young workers, that are going to get more affected in case this regime phases out. Then the other, what NOTO has also done, there is a youth committee. There are youth committees in saying, I'll call them skeleton committees, where you find an organization has a youth committee in words and in their structure, but it is not working. I want to appreciate that the National Center, that the youth committee is there. We have, I work there as the youth secretary, and I'll testify for a fact that they have really involved us. When we bring up ideas, I brought up an idea where on each committee at the National Center, let us at least have one youth, and it has really been implemented. So having had this platform at the National Center, if we come out to have this space as young workers, I feel we can be heard and our ideas can be put up there. So this is having the committee there, the program there, the budget allocation being there. This is one of the greatest also initiatives that the National Center is putting up for us to know our rights.
Thank you, Shanita. Should I ask you to quickly wrap up?
I'm wrapping up. The last one is just the OSH committee that also sensitizes us about our rights and our safety at the workplace. So generally, this is it. And thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Anita, and apologies that before I could roll into the question, you went straight into it. But thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your background and how NO2, as well as the Amalgamated Transport and General Workers Union, is supporting young people. I think it's really interesting that you also bring the perspective of people are also highly represented in the informal sector. Thank you very much, Anita, for sharing your perspectives, and I'm sure our audience has questions that we'll discuss very, very shortly. So with that, I'd like to move to our next speaker, Federica Masci, who is a technical officer in occupational safety and health at the ILO. And Federica, as we saw, safety and health was among the top sort of rights that people, or top superpower that people said that they would wish to have. So it is one of the key rights at work for young people. Could you tell us, based on your work, what are the most common OSH risks that young people are exposed to, and what could help them feel safer and more protected at work? Over to you, Federica.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, I try to share my screen. Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure for me to be here with you today. As Aisha mentioned, I deal with occupational health and safety, and I think it's very important to find this moment to facilitate a dialogue among youth employment stakeholders and the young people. So let me help you also and drive you actually into what actually was my source to respond to your question today, Aisha. I am driving this initiative about the future of occupational health and safety, so a foresight project in the frame of the ILO OSH branch. And since the beginning, it was really important for us to involve young people, as their voice is really fundamental and critical to understand what is their perspective for the future. So I just wanted to mention that before responding to your question, I wanted to show you what was the source that I used to respond to your question. So basically, we all know that, as I mentioned today also in the chat, young people are really sensitive to OSHA topics. And because of that, we created a platform that could involve those people to really engage in the discussion that we are having. So we are navigating 4 future scenarios of 2050 in terms of occupational health and safety challenges and opportunities that we might have. And in this platform, which is called OSHA Next Wave, I think in the chat we will share also the details for the young people who wants to join this discussion. We have launched 5 challenges to engage them in this conversation. So basically, in this platform, you will see the 5 challenges, which are our mission. So basically, involve since the beginning young workers in this intergenerational discussion that we are having. So for more creative works like scenario sparks or future let's say future scenario challenge, to also challenge them with the idea of including their voice in the policy ideas that we might come up with. I am not alone in this journey because this platform was made by youth and for youth. So I know that also in the group of participants today, there are some of the navigators and fellows that are joining me in this journey and are also your companion in this journey. And going back to your question, there is a very nice community which is always discussing and engaging on topics related to occupational health and safety. And I want to mention that looking at what is going on now on the platform, I can say that, first of all, psychosocial risks are among the big concerns of young workers. They want that mental health well-being, for example, could be recognized as a core element of occupational health and safety worldwide. Interestingly, many women involved in this discussion highlighted gender risks. For example, there are topics like menstrual health, harassment, unequal access to protection. They also mentioned menopause. So they think that these kind of topics remain sometimes invisible in the current system. And I think that for sure, making OSH gender responsive would significantly increase safety and inclusion. So I think this is also another big topic. A third big topic, I think, is that many youth enter informal and hazardous jobs simply because they lack alternatives or skill pathways. And this exposes, of course, them to worse and unsafe conditions. So they advocate for an early career support that would help them in this sense. And last but not least, they are all aware about the technological change that we are facing in this moment. But their concern, while they are optimistic about this change, is that they want actually technology to strengthen protection and not to deepen inequalities. So I would say that as a final message that I want to share, responding to the question, what could make them feel safer? I would say for sure a preventive safety culture. Which is, I think, a basic, let's say, a basic standard that should be worldwide pursue. A stronger enforcement also in informal work, of course, global standards that are transparent and fair, and access to training. But overall, I think the main message that I think in the communities is very important is that they really advocate for a meaningful participation in shaping OSH policies. And that's what we are trying to do with this initiative. So we are trying to incorporate their voice also in the future policy agendas. So I hope I responded to your question, and I hope that whoever is out there today can join this discussion.
Thank you so much, Federica, for sharing that and for bringing some really important points to the discussion, sharing the work that you're doing with the Next Wave platform and young people interested in sharing what OSH should look like in the future, but also highlighting the importance of some OSH risks, such as psychosocial risks and mental health, but also bringing the gender dimension to the discussion when we look at a safe and healthy working environment. With that, we move to our next speaker, Aris. Welcome, Aris. Let me briefly introduce you. So Aristaka Shige is the Executive Director of CFE Uganda, and he's also a refugee youth decent work and enterprise development specialist. And Aris, as a young refugee and a young refugee advocate, we would love to hear from you. And, we know that young refugees have specific vulnerabilities in the labor market. So if you could share with us, what are some challenges that refugee youth face in enjoying their rights at work? And what support would you like to see from the international community to better protect them? Over to you, Aris, and I will share my screen.
So much, Aisha, and hello everyone. Thank you for joining this conversation today. As presented, my name is Aristaka Shige, and before becoming the person I am today, employment experts and also executive director of the CFE Uganda. My journey did not start in a conference room. Being a refugee from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, when I came to Uganda with my family, I started on a construction site in Kampala. You can see on the projection, that's me working on a construction site in Kampala. And my first job was as a porter mason. These are people who help mason to carry water, cement, and mix cement, and also carry bricks. Like many young refugees, I had only one responsibility: survive and support my family. Every day, from Monday to Saturday, I carried more than 25 bags of cement. Not only bags, but heavy bags of cement. In Uganda, a bag of cement is 50 kilos. Now imagine someone carrying 25 on a daily basis just to earn 10,000 shillings, which is equivalent to $3 a day. And I would work 6 days. It's unfortunate that every week my foreman would cut me 3 days. Means I would remain with 30,000 Ugandan shillings, which is equivalent to $8. No contracts, no protection, no safety equipment. Complain and you're out. Now, outside the gates, there was no hope for another opportunity. Reason why we didn't have anything to complain about. You work for 6 days, they pay you 3 days. This should never be normal. Every young refugee deserves to work with dignity, not fear. For 3 years, I worked like this, supporting my parents and my 10 siblings, earning barely enough to eat and never enough to buy a smartphone or advance myself. I had skills, I had strength, I had experience, but without documents, none of that mattered. But this is bigger than my story. This is daily reality of millions of refugee youth out there. When we talk about rights at work, refugee youth face some of the toughest barriers. When opportunity is knocked, refugee youth answer with courage. But at the end of the day, to be faced by barriers, and these are the barriers we are discussing today, the challenges that refugee youth face. And despite of all these challenges that we are discussing today, these barriers may never be able to slow us as refugee youth. But they can slow us today, but they'll never be able to stop our ambitions. Yesterday, as a Mason, today is employment experts supporting youth in the western region of Africa, central region, and the eastern region of Africa. So one of the biggest challenges that refugee youth have been facing is documentation. We have skills, we have talent, we have experience, but without the right paperwork, young refugees cannot access formal jobs. This forces us into unsafe work, low pay, and exploitation. You cannot claim your rights when you are not legally recognized. Ask yourself, how can someone thrive when their existence isn't officially recognized? Secondly, we face the barrier of lack of decent work, where most of us end up in lowest paid jobs, like me working as a porter person. These are jobs that are they're very demanding and most dangerous jobs with no contracts, no safety training, and no social protection. Decent work is not a luxury to us as a refugee youth. It's a human right. It is our right. Fair pay, fair hours, and safe work are not favors. They are our rights. And remember, a right denied is a future delayed. So refugee youth futures are being delayed every day because we all believe and we all say that fair work is not charity, it is justice. To us refugee youth, it is just justice. We also face the barrier of having skills without recognition. Refugee youth come with experience. We are creators, we are builders, we are innovators, but without documents, without certificates, our abilities are ignored. Have you ever been judged by what you are and not what you are allowed to show? You are judged by what you are, not what you can do. It's really tough as a refugee youth. We also face discrimination and stereotypes. Even when we are qualified, we are judged by our refugee status, not our capacity. So, solutions to this, as an employment expert in a refugee youth, is number one, past work. We have seen ILO implementing this. ILO has a past work system which has worked out very well, where refugee youth are legally recognized and they are given a work pass that allows them to hold formal jobs, find contracts, and enjoy workplace protection. Two, our skills need to be recognized, and even our experience through apprenticeship and job placement programs. Three, decent work opportunities, fair pay, fair hours, safe conditions, and freedom from harassment. And four, we need strong youth-friendly pathways, because now we have realized that way out to independence for us refugee youth is digital jobs, entrepreneurship training, and accessible financing. Many refugee youth cannot wait for the perfect job. That's why we have started launching ventures, training other refugee youth in entrepreneurship, digital literacy, making them into, turning them into freelancers. And this has also been working out, but we need support. So, international, we need support. We need international support that flows to the local level, empowering the refugee-led organization, refugee-led ventures, social enterprises who have understand and who understand the realities on ground very well. Refugee youth can transform economies if we give them doors that open. Let me end by saying this. Refugee youth are not asking for pity. We are not asking for special treatment. We are simply asking for a fair chance. As I always say, in Western, Central, and Eastern Africa, refugees don't lack talent. They lack doors that open. If we open those doors, refugee youth will not only transform their own lives, we will not only transform our own lives, but we also become powerful contributors to the economies of the countries that host us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aris, for sharing your very powerful story on how you started in the construction sector and rebuilt your life as a young refugee, but also shedding light on the harsh reality that many young refugees have access to no jobs at all or informal jobs. So highlighting the rights at work component is a far cry given the exploitative working conditions young refugees face. Thank you for sharing your story as well as the recommendations or solutions that you think could support young refugees have better access to rights at work. You mentioned the opportunities that the digital economy presents, and you spoke about how that is an avenue for young refugees, which is a nice segue to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Zulum Avila, a labor market services specialist at the ILO. And Zulum, I would love to ask you, the digital economy is becoming increasingly popular for young refugees as an avenue for employment opportunities and for young people in general, in fact. So what implication does this shift have for their rights at work? And are there examples of workers organizing or advocating to protect their rights in digital or platform-based jobs? So over to you, Zulum, and I'll share my screen for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Isha, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit of the work we are rolling out here in the ILO. And Isha, indeed, to respond to this question, let me start setting the scene. So we are all on the same page. I mean, the gig economy, the platform work, freelancing, all these new online job opportunities or mediated by apps, by platforms are all around in different sectors, and they are very specific. So let me share a little bit of background information in there. Under the ILO Prospects project that was funded by the Kingdom of the Netherlands to promote the economic inclusion of young people in refugee hosting countries, we explore opportunities for jobs and livelihoods in the digital economy. Well, gig work is part of the digital economy, where basically the internet and digital technology are used to create, to sell, and buy goods and services. It includes many different activities, such as ordering a cab ride, food delivery through apps, e-commerce, remote freelancing, and some others that are there shown on the screen. But unlike traditional jobs, and if we can move to the next slide, the digital economy has no geographic barriers. Enterprises and workers can connect across countries and regions, and this makes it very challenging to apply workers' rights. So labor protections are slowly advancing and evolving to keep up with these quickly changing realities. And well, the ILO, together with governments, employers, and workers' organizations, but also with the grassroots communities, is exploring ways to regulate platform work, the gig economy also, including through a possible new international standard. And while these discussions recognize that income opportunities are expanding, there are also challenges. For example, gig workers are usually self-employed, paid by task or project, and then their earnings are fluctuating. The hours spent searching for gigs or waiting for tasks to be confirmed by the applications or the platforms normally go unpaid. So safety nets like social protection, health insurance are also very limited. For young refugees and migrants, as we have been hearing from prior speakers, these gaps are even wider due to documentation issues, also language barrier. They are sometimes finding very challenging to access payment systems that nationals can access, for example. And in the next slide, you will see that under prospects, the ILO has run some pilot workshops to raise awareness on these realities. What are the opportunities? Because there are opportunities, but also what are those challenges and how we can prepare for coping and better navigate these ecosystems. Workers in Uganda, Ethiopia, and Kenya, which are some of the countries where we have been running operations, share that gig platforms use very often artificial intelligence and algorithms to match tasks, set the schedules, assign jobs, and decide final payment. And while this type of technology speeds up processes, it raises concerns about job security, also health and protection for workers, access to fair wages, and their independence to decide to whom and for whom to work. Many workers also don't know how their data is treated and used by these platforms and how decisions affecting their own livelihoods are made. So those are some of the challenges that we have mapping. In the next slide, I would like to also share that some of the participants that have been part of these pilots are reporting cases of harassment, unsafe delivery routes for those ones who are in food delivery apps, and pressure sometimes to accept tasks to maintain ratings. And well, all these experiences do not necessarily mean that digital work should be avoided. Rather, they show why rights and regulations matter and how digital work can become a pathway to opportunity rather than a pathway into precarity. In the next slide, I also would like to share that despite all these challenges, something inspiring is happening. We have a dispersed and fragmented mass of workers that are behind screens and very difficult to reach as in other types of jobs, because they are not coming to one single working place, but they are sometimes at home, sometimes delivering things on the street. But anyhow, young platform workers are organizing in new and creative ways. So I would like to share some examples of how this is happening. In Kenya and Uganda, ride-hailing and delivery workers have built large WhatsApp networks to share safety alerts, report unfair deactivations by platforms, and sometimes negotiate collectively with local platforms, and very often with the support of unions. Some groups are also affiliating to them to gain formal recognition and a stronger negotiation power. For example, in Kenya, during the years that we operated the Prospects project, we saw how grassroots organizations convert into the Kenyan Union of Gig Workers organization, which is now part of established union in Kenya, and they are together addressing safety risk, unfair deactivation, and also sitting in the negotiation tables at policy level, for example, to influence the legal frameworks and the changes that are necessary, including the definition of what an online and gig worker should be in Kenya, for example. In Uganda, unions and youth collectives are also providing information on labor and social protection in the platform economy, safe onboarding for new workers, sometimes organizing legal clinics to help young and refugee workers understand and defend their rights. We are also seeing progress in collective bargaining. Countries, for example, such as Uruguay, Spain, and several other members of the European Union have created frameworks through either reclassifications of workers' status or something that is called status neutral models, meaning that independently of being considered self-employed or independent worker, they are allowed to access minimum wage, safety measures, and rights at work, like knowing and accessing their own data collected by platforms. Well, these examples are now all informing peer learning exchanges across the Prospects countries, but also we are very happy to collaborate with other countries within Africa beyond this community, including Rwanda. And well, let me also add another very interesting example that is very refugee-led. Beyond unions, new models are also emerging. Digital creative collectives are run by community of refugees called, like, for example, the Dadaab Collective. It's an agency that is providing freelancing work, especially for graphic design from the Dadaab refugee camp in Kenya. And these collectives are promoting more transparent pricing, safer working conditions, and spaces where young workers can participate with more confidence. Well, all these examples, we have been collecting them in a peer learning and facilitators resource that will be launched in January 2026. I hope that with the help of my colleagues in the Prospects community and also the Youth Foresight, we can later on share it. I'm going to be also sharing very soon on the link in the chat a toolkit that we have on the opportunities and challenges for working in the gig economy. Those are some of our efforts to provide information on what are some of the challenges and how to navigate that in a more smooth way. Well, finally, the ILO, including through the Prospects program, is supporting these efforts as shown in the next slide. No? In addition to developing the peer learning resources to navigate these opportunities and challenges, we also are trying to help how labor and social protections can be extended to the gig and platform economy by mapping what other countries are doing. We are strengthening the capacity of unions and workers' organizations to reach dispersed digital workers, including refugees. And as I mentioned at the beginning of my intervention, the ILO is also leading the 2025-26 international standard setting discussion on how to regulate the platform economy and establish hopefully a new international labor standard. So let me just close with this. The digital economy will just continue growing. And the real question here is not whether young people should engage in this type of jobs, but whether they can do so with decent work conditions and exercise fundamental rights and principles at work, like the right to associate and bargaining collectively. So this is it from on my end, Isha, and I remain available if there are questions coming from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zulum, for sharing that and for talking a little bit about how the risks and the opportunities in the digital economy, and how young people are mobilizing and are organizing themselves to be able to take advantage of the opportunities, but also protect themselves against the risks that come with the digital economy. As our audience, as you may see, we are running a couple of minutes late, but we promise we will be closing in about 5 minutes. I had the opportunity to go through the questions you had already, so I can pose them to our speakers. So I will club some of the questions into one question and present it to our speakers. Thank you, Shanita, for already responding to some of them. But we have a question or a couple of questions that ask, how can young people themselves advocate for their rights at work? So what can young people themselves do to take advantage of some of the tools or some of the work that the ILO is doing to be able to advocate for their rights at work? And maybe to club to that, I would also like to add any messages that our speakers may have for the broader community of youth employment stakeholders. What can they do to really push the agenda on youth rights at work? So over to you, our speakers. Please let me know who would like to start by sharing their inputs.
Let me just be brief. I think it's just budget allocation and making sure we get up to the skills because we are moving forward. Yeah.
Thank you, Shanita. So yes, prioritizing this piece by financing. And I think you also shared some ideas already on the chat on how young workers themselves could better engage on this topic. Aris, Zulum, Federica, any of you would like to come in on this?
Sure. Thank you, Isha. I think that it's a question of different avenues for prompting change. Now, I think that one of the foundations is raising awareness, as you are doing through all the initiatives the ILO is supporting and some of the ones that have been also shared by the participants today. But the ILO is just one actor. I think that we have also in this forum the people who is actually pushing change in the real world with Shanita and also our other participant, our other speaker, talking about how they are facing these realities every day. So I think that peer learning is very important in these environments, but also joining the institutions that are also influencing policy change, law change. And there are different mechanisms for that, including the trade unions. Trade unions are also evolving and changing. And I think that those are some of the messages that I would like to kind of share with you. So over. Thank you.
Thank you, Zulum. Federica.
Yes, I would like to connect with the last remark that was done, because I think that it's a shared responsibility of all the stakeholders to really work for young people's rights a way to institutionalize the youth participation, to really give the chance them to be listened and seen. So I think it's a matter of all the stakeholders to take the responsibility to work together, because it cannot be just one part of the chain working in this direction. We have to move all together. So I think that's really important to promote also this community sense, which also the Youth Foresight is doing with the forum. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Federica. Aris, I know you have some connectivity issues, but in case you'd like to add something as well.
Thank you so much. Actually, to add on what has been said, young refugees I've been advocating and are advocating for themselves by raising their voices through different channels, including creating refugee-led organizations. Today, with a localization agenda, when even international organizations like ILO are working directly with refugee-led organizations, like the case of Uganda, where ILO is working with more than 6 refugee-led organizations. Through this partnership, we get opportunities to sit on platforms like this one and advocating, raise our voices. We're also doing this on social media. We're actually coming together on different platforms to advocate for our rights at work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aris, and thank you to our speakers. So I'd like to take a minute to give 2 thanks. One to our audience for joining this session and for engaging, and to our speakers for sharing your perspectives and thoughts and making this such a rich discussion. So as we close, I'd like to remind everyone that today's session was recorded, and this recording will be available on the event webpage after the webinar. The link to the page is available in the chat. As is customary, we usually end with a poll to get your feedback on how you thought the webinar went. So you'll now see a poll on your screens, and we'd be very grateful if you could take a minute to share your perspectives with us through the feedback poll. So giving a couple of seconds for you to quickly fill up that feedback poll. Tell us what you thought. We'd love to continue the discussion on youth rights at work going forward. And based on your feedback, hope to take this forward and organize a series next year that really focuses on this topic of rights at work for young people. And right before we close, we will now have a short video introducing you to the Youth Foresight platform in case you're not familiar with it. It is a great knowledge repository of all the resources on youth employment, engagement, skills training, and it allows for interaction through the community forum. So if I could ask for the video on Youth Foresight to please be played.
In taking the path toward success, not every young person has equal opportunities to fulfill their potential. To improve future prospects of all young people, stakeholders need to holistically understand the challenges youth are facing and take action now. But how? Recent Jobs for Youth and Generation Unlimited joined forces to create a knowledge facility to promote evidence-based actions for youth interventions worldwide. This is Youth Foresight, a one-stop-shop digital platform that provides access to curated tools, publications, databases, and resources for the design, implementation, and monitoring of key youth interventions. Youth Foresight has 3 sections. In the Learn section, users can browse latest publications, trusted platforms and databases, tools, news, and blogs. The Engage section lets users discover interactive resources, such as webinars, online courses, videos, and events. And in the Contribute section, registered partners can share knowledge resources, gain visibility, and tap into a network of stakeholders dedicated to creating positive changes for young people. Our current partners have expressed their full support for Youth Foresight and encourage more organizations to join them. Our ultimate goal is to create the go-to knowledge facility for everyone, dedicated to supporting young people through evidence-based action and the power of network collaboration. So, what are you waiting for? Go explore, connect, share, and transform.
Thank you very much for playing the video. I noticed that you may not have seen the poll before, so if you see the poll now, grateful if you could take a quick minute to share your feedback. And as we close, I encourage you to take the poll. But I also wanted to close with a note of thanking everyone for joining this discussion. I think this is a starting point. But as was mentioned, this is truly a collective effort. And I hope in your networks, in your work, you'll continue advocating for youth rights at work, and that we'll meet again to share further updates, insights, and action that each of us are taking and our organizations are taking on youth rights at work. I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.